Hey y'all, I'm Melissa Guerra. I am the Kitchen Wrangler, and today I want to share one of my grandmother's recipes with you, which is pan de polvo. What pan de polvo means, it's a sugar cookie, but it's very special to South Texas. I guess it would be comparable to kind of a European shortbread, but you know, we don't use a lot of butter here in South Texas. Well, I do, but oops. Really, the most traditional fat that you see used in baking here in South Texas is lard. So the basis of these incredibly delicious sugar cookies is lard. And if you're vegan, if you're vegetarian, just go ahead and use vegetable shortening. That's what I grew up eating, but now that I'm older and I can pick my own poisons, I'm gonna use lard, and it is truly a treat. So delicious. So if you're ready, I'm ready. Let's get started on making pan de polvo. The name pan de polvo actually means powder bread. So it kind of lets you know these melt in your mouth very, very quickly. The first thing you need to do when you make my grandmother's pan de polvo is to make some cinnamon tea. Now, you know, teas can be two different things. They can either be a diffusion or a decoction. Now, diffusion is like your regular tea. You pour hot water in, the tea comes out, and then you get rid of the tea bag. So that's a diffusion. If it's a woody ingredient like cinnamon, that's called a decoction, and that has to be boiled. Boiled and boiled and boiled. So what you do is you take some whole cinnamon sticks and you throw them into some water and you let them boil. And that is cinnamon tea. Once you have the cinnamon tea, you take the cinnamon sticks out and you get rid of those, but you save the tea. Next, let's get started on the cookie. Add flour, sugar, cinnamon, and baking powder to a large mixing bowl. Add your lard or shortening, and what I find is so much easier to use is an electric hand mixer. That is terrific for mixing up your dough for pan de polvo. Once the dough is mixed up, you really don't have to chill it. You can use it at room temperature. Yeah, it's gonna be a little bit squishy, but that's okay. But you'll need to knead, is that a thing? You have to knead in a little bit of extra flour so that it kind of sits up almost like a bread dough, so it's not so sticky. And you really can't do that with an electric mixer. You kind of have to just knead it by hand, you know, the old-fashioned way. Old-fashioned ways are good ways, says the old person. Because the dough is kind of squishy, you don't want to roll it out too thinly. So get about 1/4 of an inch of thickness, and that'll be perfect for cutting out your cookies. Make sure your surface is really well floured. Don't worry about adding too much flour to your pan de polvo. All of the extra fat that is in the cookie dough will absorb a lot of that flour. One of the questions people have about pan de polvo is how to get that beautiful velvety texture. It has a few tricks, but just believe me, it'll kind of do it on its own. The lard or shortening mixed with flour and sugar, it is silky and delicious. When you first bake the cookies, they will seem a little bit crispy and tough, but give them a couple of days, let them rest, and they will be the absolute perfect texture. Also, when you're cutting out your cookies, roll the dough out once and cut out as many cookies as you can. I like to use a star shape because they're bigger. I like big cookies, but you can use whatever shape you like. Sometimes I'll make heart-shaped ones, and sometimes I'll make round-shaped pan de polvo. But stars, hearts, round shapes, those are pretty much the most traditional shapes. Move the cut cookies onto a piece of parchment and put the parchment on a baking sheet. I really like baking with parchment because it kind of keeps your kitchen a little bit neater. You know when you're baking cookies and you need like 4 or 5 or 6 different cookie sheets because you want to roll them out and get them all in the oven. Working with parchment paper, you roll them out, you put them on the parchment paper, and you just keep moving the parchment paper onto that baking pan as it comes out of the oven. The cookies need to bake for about 12 to 14 minutes in a 350-degree oven, but check them around 10 minutes because you definitely don't want them to burn. I've burnt so many. Once the cookies are beautifully golden brown, use a spatula and remove them from the parchment-lined cookie sheet. However, don't let them cool too long because you want to get them into your cinnamon sugar mixture. You'll need to mix up the sugar topping for rolling the warm cookies in. So add your sugar and your cinnamon to a shallow plate, something like a pie plate or a dinner plate. That is the easiest to use. Once the cookies are warm but not really hot, roll them in the sugar mixture and then place them on a cooling rack so they can completely cool. Allow the cookies to cool completely before you put them in an airtight container for storage. Make sure you tell your family when they can't eat the cookies, because what'll happen, which happens to me all the time, is I'll be baking pan de polvo and I'll turn around and all of the beautiful gifts that I've put together, all these beautiful baked cookies, will disappear and no one will know what happened to them. It has caused a lot of drama during the holidays. So avoid drama, enjoy the cookies, and just put a time limit as to when people can dive in. No one's here at my house right now and nobody's gonna tell me no, so I'm gonna eat one of these. I love these cookies. I absolutely love these cookies. My grandmother, when she would make them, she would grind the cinnamon herself. She had a little spice grinder, and the cinnamon has like more of a floral flavor when it's freshly ground. I kind of cheated and I used the cinnamon that I got at the supermarket, but I mean, is that really cheating? I actually made these cookies myself. There's no cheating. I didn't cheat. Anyway, but my grandmother, she had a higher standard, so sorry, Mimi. Yummy. While I was making these, I dropped a ton of sugar on the floor, which usually happens when you're eating pan de polvo, like they're all covered with sugar. Eventually there's like sugar all over the floor, and my family's gonna come home and they're gonna be like, wow, Mom made a ton of cookies, which is not true because I actually just dropped a container of sugar on the floor, but they will think the worst of me, which is usually true anyway. I usually eat a ton of these things. Wow. And these just get better over time. If you store them in an airtight container, they'll last for, well, as long as your family lets them last, as long as they don't eat them all up. But they should last for about 2 or 3 weeks. They just get more silky, more velvety. The cinnamon gets stronger. They just get more and more delicious if you can keep them around. So that's my grandmother's very classic recipe for pan de polvo. Now, this is a very traditional way, but if you check my website, I have a couple of variations. I have an orange spice one, and I'm also posting a pecan version. They all are made exactly the same way, but they have a little bit of a flavored variation. As always, it is such a pleasure to be here with y'all. And you know, if you have any questions or comments or requests, you can email me at help@kitchenwrangler.com, or you can find me online. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, I'm on Twitter, I'm on YouTube, and I'm always here at the ranch. So give me a shout out and I would love to chat with you. I'm Melissa Guerra, I am the Kitchen Wrangler, and I'm looking forward to seeing you here at the ranch again soon. Bye now.